The real history of modern ninja myths, Hollywood, truth and lost reality. In the darkness of a Hollywood soundstage, a figure dressed in black drops from the ceiling. Silent, deadly, invisible. The ninja, master of stealth, assassin without equal, warrior of the shadows. This is the image burned into our collective consciousness. But what if almost everything you think you know about ninja is wrong? The ninja of popular imagination emerged not from feudal Japan, but from 20th century movie studios, pulp novels, and Cold War anxieties. The real practitioners of ninjutsu, the historical shinobi, lived lives far removed from the supernatural assassins of modern myth. They were intelligence gatherers, saboteurs, and unconventional warfare specialists who operated in the brutal reality of Japan's warring states period. Their story is more complex, more human, and ultimately more fascinating than any Hollywood fantasy. To understand how we arrived at our current mythology, we must journey backward through layers of fabrication, misunderstanding, and deliberate invention. We must examine how a specialized class of medieval military operatives became transformed into superhuman shadow warriors. This transformation didn't happen overnight. It occurred through a specific sequence of cultural shifts, commercial interests, and historical accidents spanning more than 4 centuries. The year is 1581. Oda Nobunaga, the most powerful warlord in Japan, is consolidating his grip on the nation. His armies have crushed rival clans, burned monasteries, and brought unprecedented order through overwhelming force. But Nobunaga faces enemies who cannot be defeated through conventional warfare alone. In the mountainous province of Iga, communities of families have developed specialized skills in unconventional combat, espionage, and survival. These are the shinobi, the historical figures who would later be romanticized as ninja. These shinobi are not mysterious assassins emerging from nowhere. They are farmers, lower-ranking samurai, and mountain people who have developed expertise in guerrilla tactics out of necessity. Iga province, isolated and poor, cannot field armies to match the great daimyo. Instead, its people have become specialists in intelligence gathering, infiltration, arson, and psychological warfare. They sell these skills as mercenaries to various warlords, including Nobunaga's enemies. The historical shinobi operated within a specific social and military context. During Japan's Sengo period, the age of warring state from 1467 to 1615, constant warfare created demand for unconventional military capabilities. Traditional samurai warfare emphasized direct combat, cavalry charges, and ritualized dueling. But practical warlords needed intelligence about enemy positions, supplies, and intentions. They needed agents who could infiltrate castles, spread disinformation, and commit sabotage. This created a niche that shinobi filled. The term shinobi itself derives from the verb shinobi-iru, meaning to steal in or to sneak. It described a function, not a social class. Many samurai performed shinobi activities when necessary. Many shinobi were technically samurai of lower rank. The rigid distinction between samurai and ninja that exists in popular culture is largely a modern invention. In historical documents, we find references to shinobi no mono, stealthy persons, rapper, rascals, kuza, grass, meaning sleeper agents, and various other terms, but rarely the term ninja itself. The word ninja became standardized only in the 20th century, particularly after World War II. It combines a Chinese-derived pronunciation of 2 characters, nin, stealth, endurance, and ja, person. Before the modern period, this pronunciation was rarely used. The historical practitioners would have identified with their clan, their region, or their specific role, not with a unified identity as ninja. Now, Nobunaga has decided that Iga province represents an unacceptable threat. These shinobi communities maintain independence within what he considers his domain. Worse, they have provided services to his enemies. In 1579, Nobunaga's son Nobu launches an invasion of Iga. The attackers expect an easy victory against mountain farmers. Instead, they encounter coordinated resistance, ambushes, and psychological warfare. The invasion fails disastrously. Nobu retreats, humiliated. 2 years later, Nobunaga himself leads a massive punitive expedition. He brings 40,000 troops against a population of perhaps 30,000, including women, children, and elderly. This is not a military campaign, but an annihilation. Nobunaga's forces attack from multiple directions simultaneously, burning villages and killing indiscriminately. The organized resistance collapses. Survivors flee into the mountains or scatter across Japan. The shinobi communities of IGA are effectively destroyed as coherent social units. This historical moment, the Tensho IGA War of 1581, represents both the apex and the beginning of the end for organized shinobi culture. In the decades that follow, the surviving practitioners and their descendants scatter. Some find employment with victorious warlords. Some become bandits. Some fade into conventional society. Their specialized knowledge begins to fragment and disappear. When Tokugawa Ieyasu unifies Japan in 1603 and establishes the Tokugawa shogunate, he deliberately creates an era of peace and social rigidity. The chaotic warfare that created demand for shinobi skills ends. The new government establishes a strict social hierarchy and attempts to eliminate the kind of disorder that allowed unconventional warfare to flourish. Some shinobi families find new roles as government security personnel, guards, and police. But the golden age of the shinobi is over. Over the next 2.5 centuries of Tokugawa rule, the historical reality of the shinobi begins to fade. But something else starts to grow, the legend. During the Edo period, Japan develops a vibrant popular culture. Kabuki theater, woodblock print, and popular novels create entertainment for urban audiences who have never experienced real warfare. In this commercial culture, the shinobi begins to transform. Early depictions show shinobi characters with exaggerated abilities. They become more mysterious, more theatrical, more supernatural. Writers and artists are not trying to preserve historical accuracy. They are trying to sell entertainment. The historical unconventional warfare specialist becomes a stock character, the mysterious agent with secret techniques and exotic weapons. This fictionalization process, beginning in the 17th century, lays the groundwork for everything that follows. By the mid-19th century, when American warships forced Japan to end its isolation, the actual practice of ninjutsu has mostly vanished. A few families claim to preserve traditional teachings, but these have become formalized, ritualized, and detached from their original military context. What remains is primarily the legend, the popular culture version that has been developing for 2 centuries. The Meiji Restoration of 1868 transformed Japan with stunning speed. The feudal system collapses. Samurai lose their legal privileges. Japan frantically modernizes, importing Western technology, military organization, and political systems. In this new Japan, obsessed with becoming a modern power, the feudal past becomes increasingly distant. The shinobi, already mostly legendary, become even more remote from lived experience. But the stories persist. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, popular literature continues to feature ninja characters. These stories serve several purposes. They provide entertainment. They satisfy nostalgia for the pre-modern past. They create dramatic narratives about loyalty, skill, and secret knowledge. But they are not historical documents. They are commercial fiction, each author adding new elements and exaggerations. One particularly influential figure emerges in this period, Tsurutabi Sasuke, a fictional ninja character who appears in serialized novels in 1911 and 1912. Sasuke is described as possessing magical abilities, including the power to disappear, to transform, and to control animals. He served the legendary warrior Sanada Yukimura during the Osaka Castle campaign of 1614. The character becomes wildly popular, appearing in countless subsequent stories, plays, and films. Tsurutabi Sasuke is entirely fictional. There is no historical evidence that any such person existed, but his popularity demonstrates how completely the ninja mythology has diverged from history. The early 20th century Japanese public is consuming and enjoying stories about ninja with supernatural powers, believing these tales represent genuine historical tradition. The distance between the historical shinobi and the fictional ninja continues to grow. During the 1920s and 1930s, as Japan becomes increasingly militaristic, ninja stories begin to serve another purpose. The figure of the loyal, skilled, self-sacrificing ninja becomes a useful propaganda tool. Stories emphasize unwavering devotion to masters, willingness to die for the mission, and superiority through unique Japanese techniques. The ninja becomes a symbol of Japanese martial superiority and spiritual strength. This militaristic period also sees the emergence of various martial arts organizations claiming to teach authentic ninjutsu. Some of these claims are legitimate. They represent attempts by families with actual historical connections to preserve traditional teachings. Others are more questionable, modern inventions or syncretic systems claiming ancient lineage for commercial or ideological purposes. Distinguishing between genuine transmission and modern invention becomes increasingly difficult. The Second World War destroys much of Japan's physical infrastructure and disrupts social continuity. In the chaos of defeat, occupation, and reconstruction, many historical documents are lost. Family traditions are interrupted. The already thin historical record becomes even thinner. In the post-war period, reconstructing the actual history of the shinobi becomes an archaeological challenge, requiring careful analysis of surviving documents and critical evaluation of claims to traditional knowledge. But while the historical reality becomes more obscure, the mythology is about to explode into global consciousness. The vehicle for this explosion is not Japanese tradition, but American popular culture. In the 1960s, Japan's film industry is producing hundreds of movies annually, including many period pieces set in feudal times. Some of these films feature ninja characters, now depicted with increasingly cinematic flair. They leap impossible distances. They vanish in clouds of smoke. They wield exotic weapons. These films are made for domestic entertainment, continuing the trend of popular ninja fiction that has existed since the Edo period. What happens next transforms everything. American film distributors discover these Japanese ninja movies. In the context of 1960s and 1970s American culture, with growing interest in Asian martial arts, counterculture fascination with exotic traditions, and Cold War spy fiction, these ninja films find a receptive audience. Dubbed into English and released to American audiences hungry for martial arts content, they introduce the ninja to Western popular consciousness. The first major American exposure comes through television. In 1967, the Japanese tokusatsu series Kamen no Ninja Akikage, Red Shadow, begins airing. While primarily consumed in Japan, it establishes certain visual tropes, the masked warrior, the acrobatic combat, the gadgets and weapons, that will influence subsequent productions. More significantly, Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon in 1973 creates a massive American audience for Asian martial arts cinema. While Lee's film doesn't feature ninja specifically, it opens a market that ninja films will soon fill. The breakthrough moment arrives in 1980. Two films, one Japanese, one American, bring ninja into mainstream Western consciousness. The Japanese film Shogun's Ninja and the American television miniseries Shogun both present ninja to massive Western audiences. These productions depict ninja as mysterious, deadly, and exotic, the ultimate Asian warriors with secret techniques unknown to the West. Shogun, based on James Clavell's novel, is particularly influential. Watched by more than 30 million Americans, it presents a romanticized vision of feudal Japan. The ninja who appear are depicted as supernatural assassins, nearly impossible to detect or defeat. For most Americans, this miniseries provides their first substantial exposure to ninja mythology. It establishes expectations and assumptions that will shape Western understanding for decades. The success of these productions triggers a tsunami of ninja content. Between 1980 and 1985, Hollywood produces dozens of ninja films. Most are low-budget action movies with minimal historical accuracy. They feature Western actors in ninja costume performing martial arts sequences, often shot in locations that bear no resemblance to Japan. The plots are simple: ninja as assassins, ninja as mystical warriors, ninja as exotic threats. These films establish a specific ninja aesthetic for Western audiences: all-black clothing, acrobatic combat, exotic weapons like throwing stars and blowguns, supernatural stealth abilities, and absolute dedication to mission. This aesthetic has minimal connection to historical shinobi practices. It derives from theater traditions, modern inventions, and cinematic imagination. But for the Western audience, this becomes the ninja. The 1980s ninja boom extends far beyond film. Comic books feature ninja characters. Video games incorporate ninja protagonists. Toy companies produce ninja action figures. Martial arts schools begin advertising ninjutsu training, often teaching systems invented or substantially modified in the 20th century but marketed as ancient traditions. The ninja becomes a ubiquitous figure in Western popular culture, completely detached from historical reality. Perhaps the most influential Western ninja creation emerges in 1984, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird as a parody of popular comic book trends, the Turtles combine ninja aesthetics with absurdist humor. When the franchise becomes a massive success, spawning animated series, films, toys, and video games, it introduces ninja mythology to children worldwide. For an entire generation, their first exposure to ninja concept comes through mutant reptiles trained by a rat sensei. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles demonstrate how far the ninja concept has traveled from its historical origins. The franchise uses Japanese terms, references traditional weapons, and incorporates elements of martial arts philosophy. But it does so in a completely decontextualized way, creating a hybrid mythology that is neither historically accurate nor authentically Japanese. It is quintessentially American popular culture, borrowing exotic elements and repackaging them for commercial entertainment. The most recognizable element of the ninja mythology is the all-black costume, the shinobi shizoku. The image is burned into global consciousness, a figure entirely covered in black cloth, only the eyes visible, moving through darkness with supernatural stealth. This costume has become so associated with ninja that most people cannot imagine them dressed any other way. But this iconic outfit is almost entirely a modern theatrical invention. Historical evidence suggests that actual shinobi dress to avoid detection in their specific environment and situation. Infiltrating at night, they might wear dark blue or dark gray, colors that blend better with darkness than pure black, which can create a detectable silhouette. Infiltrating during the day, they would dress as farmers, merchants, priests, or whatever identity their cover required. The key principle was contextual camouflage, not a standardized uniform. The all-black costume originates in Japanese theater tradition, specifically kabuki and its predecessor forms. Kabuki theater developed a convention of using stagehands dressed entirely in black, kuroko. These stagehands would move props, assist with costume changes, and facilitate scene transitions while remaining invisible to the audience. The theatrical convention was that the audience would mentally ignore the black-clad figures. When kabuki plays featured ninja or assassin characters, playwright created a clever inversion of this convention. They would have a kuroko suddenly reveal himself as a character. The invisible stagehand was actually a hidden ninja. This created a dramatic surprise and played on the audience's conditioned response to the black costume. Over time, the black outfit became theatrically associated with stealth and ninja characters. This theatrical costume gradually migrated into other media. Woodblock prints from the Edo period sometimes show ninja in all-black clothing, following theatrical conventions. Early 20th century films adopted the costume because it created a visually striking image and made the ninja character immediately recognizable. By the mid-20th century, the black costume had become standard in Japanese popular culture representations of ninja. When Western audiences encountered ninja in the 1980s, they encountered this theatrical costume and assumed it was historically authentic. Hollywood films reinforced the all-black aesthetic because it looked dramatic on film and created clear visual differentiation between ninja and other characters. The costume became self-perpetuating. Each film, show, or game that featured ninja in black clothing reinforced audience expectations, making it increasingly difficult to present ninja in any other way. But the costume is only one element of a larger mythological architecture. The weapons associated with ninja in popular culture also represent a mix of historical reality, theatrical invention, and modern fabrication. Consider the shuriken, the throwing star. These weapons did exist historically, though they were far less prominent than popular culture suggests. Historical shuriken came in various forms, including blade-like and star-shaped variants. They were primarily defensive weapons, thrown to distract or injure pursuers during an escape, not precision assassination tools. The cinematic shuriken is dramatically exaggerated. Films show ninja throwing stars with perfect accuracy at great distances, embedding them deeply in targets, sometimes even killing with a single throw. The reality is that shuriken were relatively low-damage weapons, difficult to throw accurately, and effective primarily at close range. They were one tool among many, not the signature weapon they became in popular mythology. The kusarigama, the chain and sickle weapon, offers another example. This weapon did exist historically and was associated with some shinobi traditions, but its cinematic portrayal vastly exaggerates its practicality. Films show ninjas spinning long chains with perfect control, striking targets with precision while the chain whirls around them. Actual kusarigama use was far more constrained, and the weapon was probably relatively rare even among historical shinobi. The ninjato, the supposedly traditional ninja sword, represents outright modern invention. Popular culture depicts ninja using a straight-bladed sword, in contrast to the curved katana of samurai. This straight sword supposedly allowed ninja to use a scabbard as a climbing tool and made the weapon easier to draw in confined spaces. Some martial arts equipment retailers sell authentic ninjato based on these principles, but there is no historical evidence that ninja used distinctive straight swords. Surviving documents show shinobi using whatever weapons were available and appropriate, including standard katana when they had them. The ninjato appears to have been invented in the 20th century, possibly by modern martial art practitioners looking to differentiate ninjutsu equipment from standard kenjutsu gear, or by equipment manufacturers seeking to create a new product category. The traditional ninja sword is a tradition less than a century old, marketed as ancient. The mythology extends to techniques and abilities. Popular culture presents ninja as having almost supernatural stealth capabilities. They can vanish instantly. They can move without making any sound. They can remain completely undetected even in plain sight. They can scale sheer walls. They can walk on water. These exaggerated abilities derive from several sources. Some come from theatrical tradition and storytelling exaggeration. Folk tales have always granted exceptional abilities to skilled practitioners. The legendary accounts of shinobi exploits, transmitted through oral tradition and popular literature, naturally amplify their capabilities with each retelling. A successful nighttime infiltration becomes, in the retelling, a magical vanishing. A skilled practitioner's ability to move quietly becomes, in legend, complete silence. Some claimed abilities derive from misunderstanding or deliberate misrepresentation of historical techniques. For example, shinobi were historically known to use psychology and misdirection. They might create a distraction to draw attention away from their actual movement. In popular culture, this becomes literal invisibility. They might use smoke or powder to obscure vision during an escape. In legend, this becomes vanishing techniques and supernatural disappearance. The mythology also incorporates elements from esoteric Buddhism and mountain ascetic practices. Historical shinobi families in regions like Iga and Koga had connections to Shugendo, a syncretic tradition combining Buddhism, Shinto, and mountain asceticism. Shugendo practitioners performed austerities, developed survival skills, and used esoteric rituals. Some of these practices probably influenced shinobi culture. But popular culture transforms this connection into a claim that ninja possessed magical powers derived from mystical training. The hand signs, Kujien or ninja hand seals, seen in countless films and anime, represent another layer of this mystification. These hand gestures derive from esoteric Buddhist mudras used in ritual and meditation. Some martial traditions incorporated these gestures as focusing techniques or as mnemonic devices for principles and strategies. In popular culture, particularly in manga and anime like Naruto, these hand signs become magical gestures that allow ninja to perform supernatural feats, creating fire, summoning animals, or transforming their bodies. This transformation of historical or symbolic elements into literal supernatural abilities reveals how the ninja mythology operates. It takes fragmentary historical elements, real weapons, real techniques, real cultural connections, and amplifies them through layers of fiction, misunderstanding, and commercial interest until they become unrecognizable. The result is a mythology that sounds plausible because it contains genuine elements, but that fundamentally misrepresents a historical reality. The architecture of the ninja myth also includes claims about secret teachings and hidden knowledge. Popular culture presents ninjutsu as a complete martial system with ancient lineages, passed down through families in absolute secrecy. This narrative of secret knowledge appeals to the human fascination with hidden wisdom and exclusive traditions. It suggests that somewhere, authentic ninja knowledge exists, preserved by secretive masters who maintain ancient traditions. The reality is more complex and more fragmented. Some families in former shinobi regions did preserve traditions across generations. But these traditions were often fragmentary, had adapted over time, and existed alongside many other martial and cultural practices. The notion of a single, coherent, completely preserved ninjutsu system is questionable. In the post-war period, several figures emerged claiming to represent authentic ninjutsu traditions. These claims created intense controversy within martial art communities, sparked debates about historical authenticity, and contributed significantly to the continuing ninja mythology. The most prominent and controversial figure in this landscape was Masaoki Hatsumi. Hatsumi, born in 1931, founded the Bujinkan organization, which he claims teaches 9 traditional Japanese martial arts schools, several of which are classified as ninjutsu traditions. According to Hatsumi, he learned these systems from Toshitsugu Takamatsu, who supposedly inherited them through legitimate lineages extending back to the feudal period. Hatsumi's teaching spread globally, with Bujinkan dojos established in dozens of countries. For many Westerners seeking to learn authentic ninjutsu, Bujinkan became the primary available source. The controversy surrounding Hatsumi and Bujinkan centers on the authenticity of the claimed lineages. Skeptics point out that documentation for many of Hatsumi's claimed historical lineages is thin or non-existent. Some scrolls and documents have been questioned by historians. The techniques taught in Bujinkan schools combine elements from multiple martial traditions in ways that may represent modern synthesis rather than ancient preservation. Defenders of Bujinkan argue that the lack of documentation is expected for traditions that were deliberately kept secret, that were disrupted by war and social upheaval, and that existed primarily through oral transmission and physical teaching rather than written texts. They contend that the techniques, when examined by knowledgeable practitioners, display sophistication and coherence that suggests genuine traditional foundation rather than modern invention. This debate cannot be definitively resolved with available evidence. What is clear is that Bujinkan and similar organizations occupy an ambiguous space between historical preservation and modern creation. They may contain genuine traditional elements passed down through teacher-student relationships, combined with modern adaptations, interpretations, and innovations. Untangling the historical from the modern within these systems requires expertise that few possess. Another influential figure in post-war ninjutsu was Seiko Fujita, who claimed to be the 14th headmaster of the Koguryu ninjutsu tradition. Fujita, who worked with Japanese government intelligence during World War II, made various claims about ninja capabilities and techniques. Some of his demonstrations and teachings influenced subsequent understanding of ninjutsu, but historians have questioned the extent of Fujita's actual connection to historical ninjutsu traditions versus his own innovations and interpretations. The pattern repeats across multiple claimants to ninja lineage. Genuine fragments of historical knowledge become mixed with modern interpretation, theatrical tradition, and sometimes deliberate fabrication. The political and commercial incentives to claim authentic lineage are enormous. A martial art instructor who can claim to teach real ninjutsu from an ancient tradition gains students, prestige, and financial success. These incentives make critical evaluation difficult and create an environment where exaggerated or false claims can flourish. Western audiences, largely unable to evaluate Japanese historical sources and unfamiliar with the nuances of Japanese martial arts culture, were particularly vulnerable to questionable claims. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, numerous Western martial artists claimed to teach authentic ninjutsu, often after relatively brief training in Japan or sometimes with no direct connection to Japanese teachers at all. Some were sincere but misled. Others were opportunistic frauds recognizing a lucrative market. The ninja boom created a commercial ecosystem. Martial arts equipment suppliers sold authentic ninja weapons, many of which were modern creations with no historical precedent. Publishers released books claiming to reveal secret ninja techniques, often containing more fiction than fact. Video series promised to teach real ninjutsu through home study. The commercial incentive to perpetuate and expand the ninja mythology became self-sustaining. This commercial ecosystem intersected with a growing ninja lifestyle phenomenon. Ninja became aspirational figures, particularly for young men seeking empowerment through martial arts training. The ninja represented the ultimate warrior, skilled, mysterious, disciplined, capable of extraordinary feats. Students who took up ninjutsu training were not merely learning self-defense. They were joining a tradition, accessing secret knowledge, and transforming themselves into elite warriors. Their psychological appeal is crucial to understanding the persistence of ninja mythology. The ninja myth provides a narrative of transformation and empowerment. It suggests that through correct training with authentic masters, ordinary individuals can access superhuman abilities and ancient wisdom. This narrative is powerful, attractive, and largely disconnected from the reality of historical shinobi, who were pragmatic operatives working within specific military and social contexts. Academia began to engage seriously with ninja history in the late 20th century. Historians like Stephen Turnbull published works attempting to separate historical fact from fiction. These academic treatments emphasize documentary evidence, analyze surviving manuals and scrolls, and place shinobi within their proper historical context. But academic work reached a limited audience compared to popular culture. The academic consensus that emerged from serious historical research presents a picture quite different from popular mythology. Historical shinobi were specialists in unconventional warfare within the specific context of the Sengo period. Their primary functions were intelligence gathering, espionage, and sabotage. They used practical techniques appropriate to these missions: disguise, social engineering, knowledge of castle construction, incendiary devices, basic toxicology, and when necessary, assassination. They were not supernatural warriors. They did not possess magical abilities. They did not dress uniformly in black. They did not use many of the exotic weapons attributed to them in popular culture. They were skilled and dangerous, but their skills were human skills developed through training and experience, not mystical powers obtained through secret rituals. The historical shinobi also were not romantic individualist heroes. They operated within family and clan structures. Their loyalty was to their employer or their community, not to abstract principles. Many historical accounts show shinobi behaving brutally, pragmatically, and without particular honor. They were tools of warfare, sometimes effective and sometimes not, but always operating within the constraints of human capability and historical circumstance. But this historically accurate picture cannot compete with the mythology. A pragmatic intelligence operative, dressed as a peasant, gathering information about castle supply levels, makes for much less compelling entertainment than a black-clad shadow warrior with supernatural abilities engaging in spectacular combat. The mythology persists because it serves psychological, commercial, and narrative needs that the historical reality cannot fulfill. Moreover, the mythology has become culturally embedded in ways that resist correction. When children worldwide grow up watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when video games consistently portray ninja with superhuman abilities, when Hollywood continues to produce films featuring mystical ninja warriors, the mythology perpetuates itself across generations. Each new iteration builds on and reinforces existing expectations. The Internet age initially appeared to offer hope for better historical understanding. Information became widely accessible. Academic sources could reach broader audiences. Discussion forums allowed knowledgeable practitioners and historians to share information. But the Internet also amplified misinformation. For every serious historical article, dozens of websites, videos, and social media posts perpetuated myths. The signal-to-noise ratio did not improve. It arguably worsened. One significant development in recent decades has been growing Japanese scholarship in English addressing ninja history. Researchers like Yuji Yamada and organizations like the Ijeiryu Ninja Museum have worked to present historically grounded information to international audiences. These efforts have value, but they face the enormous challenge of correcting more than a century of accumulated mythology. The mythology has also been reinforced by tourism. IGA and Koga, the historical centers of shinobi culture, have developed ninja-themed tourist industries. While some aspect of these tourist offerings attempt historical accuracy, they also cater to visitor expectations shaped by popular culture. Museums display both historical artifacts and theatrical ninja costumes. Demonstrations feature both documented techniques and cinematic performances. The line between education and entertainment becomes blurred. The 1990s and 2000s saw ninja mythology evolve through video games and anime, reaching new audiences and adding new layers to the mythology. These media forms allow for even greater exaggeration of abilities and further departure from historical reality, while simultaneously creating more emotionally engaging and narratively complex ninja characters. The video game industry embraced ninja protagonists early. Games like Ninja Gaiden, 1988, and Shinobi, 1987, featured highly acrobatic ninja heroes with combat abilities far exceeding human possibility. Players could wall jump, throw unlimited shuriken, defeat dozens of enemies, and use magic-like techniques. These games were not attempting historical accuracy, they were creating power fantasies. But they introduced millions of young players worldwide to ninja concepts, shaping their understanding of what ninja were and what they could do. As video game technology advanced, ninja games became more sophisticated. The Tenchu Stealth Assassin series, beginning 1998, emphasized stealth gameplay, allowing players to experience ninja-style infiltration missions. While still heavily fictionalized, these games incorporated some realistic elements: the need to avoid detection, the use of environment and tools, the vulnerability of the protagonist. They suggested that ninja power came not from supernatural abilities, but from skill, planning, and exploitation of terrain and darkness. The Ninja Gaiden reboot 2004 took a different approach, creating spectacular combat sequences with cinematic visual flair. The protagonist, Ryu Hayabusa, performed impossible acrobatics, wielded weapons with superhuman speed, and fought supernatural enemies. The game was operatic in its violence, creating a ninja fantasy that emphasized individual power and combat prowess. This represented one extreme of ninja mythology, the ninja as nearly godlike warrior. Meanwhile, the Metal Gear Solid series, 1998, created a parallel mythology of modern-day ninja or ninja-influenced operatives. These games combine stealth gameplay with complex narratives about military technology, political conspiracy, and the ethics of warfare. While set in contemporary or near-future settings, they incorporated ninja aesthetics and philosophy, suggesting that the ninja spirit could be adapted to modern contexts. The character of Gray Fox, a cybernetically enhanced ninja, represented a fusion of ancient tradition and futuristic technology. Parallel to video game development, anime and manga created their own elaborate ninja mythologies. Series like Naruto, beginning 1999, constructed entire fictional worlds where ninja existed as a primary social and military structure. In these worlds, ninja could use chakra to perform spectacular techniques, creating elemental attacks, summoning creatures, healing injuries, and even reviving the dead. The ninja were essentially wizards using Asian-flavored magic, with only the terminology and visual aesthetics connecting them to historical shinobi. Naruto became a global phenomenon, particularly popular with young audiences. For millions of children and teenagers worldwide, their primary reference point for ninja became this fantasy world of chakra and jutsu. The series incorporated genuine Japanese cultural elements and occasionally referenced actual historical figures, but these authentic touches were embedded in a thoroughly fantastical framework. The result was a generation whose understanding of ninja combined Japanese cultural literacy with complete historical inaccuracy. Other anime took different approaches. Basilisk, 2005, presented a darker, more violent ninja narrative focus on clan warfare and tragic romance. Nabari no OU, 2008, explored themes of power, identity, and the burden of secret knowledge. These series added psychological and philosophical depth to ninja narratives while still maintaining supernatural elements and fantastic abilities. They suggested that ninja mythology could support serious storytelling, not merely action spectacle. The manga and anime approach to ninja influenced Western media in turn. American animated series like Avatar, The Last Airbender, and later works incorporated ninja-like characters and concepts filtered through the anime lens. Western video game designers studied Japanese ninja games and incorporated their mechanics and aesthetics. The cultural exchange became bidirectional, with ninja mythology becoming truly transnational, no longer purely Japanese or Western, but a hybrid global mythology. Film continued to evolve ninja portrayals. The Ninja Assassin, 2009, presented highly stylized, ultra-violent ninja action with explicit gore and spectacular combat choreography. The film made no pretense to historical accuracy, instead embracing the assassin cult mythology and adding elaborate blood effects. It represented one strand of ninja cinema, pure action spectacle aimed at adult audiences seeking visceral entertainment. In contrast, films like Ninja, 2009, starring Scott Adkins, attempted a slightly more grounded approach, presenting ninja as highly trained martial artists within a modern context. While still featuring implausible combat abilities, these films reduce the supernatural elements and emphasize physical skill. They nodded toward martial arts authenticity while still delivering the action sequences audiences expected. Hollywood's relationship with ninja continued to be complicated. Major studio films struggled to find successful ninja formula. The big-budget ninja assassin underperformed financially. Ninja remained popular in supporting roles or as antagonists, but struggled to carry blockbuster films as protagonists. Perhaps Western audiences had difficulty fully identifying with characters so associated with Asian culture and aesthetics, or perhaps the ninja mythology had become so diffuse and contradictory that it no longer supported coherent narrative. Japanese cinema, meanwhile, occasionally attempted more historically grounded ninja portrayals. Shinobi Heart Under Blade, 2005, combined romantic drama with ninja clan warfare, incorporating some period-accurate elements while maintaining cinematic spectacle. These films demonstrated that it was possible to create emotionally engaging ninja narratives with at least gestural acknowledgement of historical context. But they remained outliers in a media landscape dominated by fantasy and exaggeration. The transnational ninja mythology that emerged from decades of video games, anime, manga, and film created a curious paradox. On one hand, ninja became more culturally visible than ever before. References to ninja appeared in countless media products across dozens of countries. The concept had become globally recognizable, part of shared popular culture vocabulary. On the other hand, this ubiquitous ninja bore almost no resemblance to the historical shinobi. The mythology had become completely detached from its historical referent. This detachment created some backlash among serious martial artists and historians. Organizations dedicated to preserving authentic Japanese martial traditions expressed frustration with the ninja mythology, arguing that it created false expectations and attracted students for the wrong reasons. Japanese cultural institutions sometimes found themselves in the awkward position of both capitalizing on ninja tourism and attempting to educate visitors about historical reality. The proliferation of ninja mythology also created interesting cultural appropriation dynamics. Ninja became one of the most widely appropriated elements of Japanese culture, used by creators worldwide with varying degrees of cultural sensitivity. Some users engage respectfully with Japanese culture, incorporating language, philosophy, and aesthetic principles thoughtfully. Other users reduce ninja to a costume and a set of fighting moves, stripped of cultural context and meaning. Japanese creators themselves had complex relationships with ninja mythology. Some embraced global popularity and creative freedom, producing works that deliberately played with and subverted ninja tropes. Others felt frustration with how their cultural heritage was being transformed and commercialized globally. The ninja had become a kind of shared cultural property, with Japan as a nominal source but no longer controlling how the concept was used or understood. This raises interesting questions about cultural ownership and mythological evolution. Do modern ninja portrayals in American video games or French anime-influenced comics represent cultural appropriation or cultural exchange? When does creative adaptation become misrepresentation? Who has the authority to declare a particular ninja portrayal authentic or inauthentic? These questions have no simple answers, but they reveal how completely ninja have transcended their historical origins to become a transnational mythological figure. To understand what has been lost in the mythology, we must examine what historical shinobi actually did. This requires careful analysis of surviving documents, comparison with documented military practices, and critical evaluation of claims and legends. The picture that emerges is less spectacular than Hollywood, but more interesting in its practicality and human dimension. The primary historical sources for shinobi practices are relatively few. The most significant is a Bansen Shukai, compiled in 1676 by Fujibayashi Yasutoki. This text, created in the late Edo period, attempts to systematize shinobi knowledge from earlier periods, particularly from the IGA and Koga traditions. It is not a contemporary battlefield manual, but rather a retrospective compilation of techniques, philosophy, and practical knowledge. The Bansen Shukai reveals that shinobi practice was primarily concerned with information gathering and intelligence operations. The text describes methods for approaching and entering enemy territory, techniques for observing enemy activities without detection, and methods for recruiting informants and agents within enemy organizations. These are fundamentally espionage techniques, not combat techniques. The manual describes classifications of agents: native operatives already living in enemy territory, converted agents recruited from the enemy, false agents who provide misleading information to the enemy, expendable agents used for misinformation, and living agents who return with intelligence. This classification system closely parallels intelligence organization in other military traditions worldwide, suggesting that shinobi operations followed pragmatic principles of espionage rather than unique mystical approaches. The Bansen Shukai also discusses practical matters like weather observation, understanding human psychology for manipulation, deception, making and using incendiary devices, basic pharmacology and toxicology, and understanding castle architecture and fortification weaknesses. These are the tools of unconventional warfare, practical knowledge for infiltration, sabotage, and intelligence work. Combat techniques in the Bansen Shukai are relatively limited and clearly secondary to intelligence functions. The text assumes that shinobi will attempt to avoid direct combat when possible. When combat is unavoidable, the techniques emphasize a practical and brutal methods for quickly disabling or killing opponents, often through surprise or ambush. There is nothing mystical or supernatural in these descriptions. They are pragmatic killing techniques, probably effective in context, but not dramatically different from close-quarters combat methods in other military traditions. Another important source is a Shininki, written in 1681 by Notoru Ryu practitioner Natori Masatake. This text emphasizes the mental and psychological aspects of shinobi work more than the Bansen Shukai. It discusses the importance of mental discipline, adaptability, and strategic thinking. The Shininki presents shinobi practice as requiring intelligence, creativity, and psychological strength rather than merely physical technique or secret knowledge. Both texts emphasize disguise and infiltration extensively. Historical shinobi were expected to be able to convincingly portray various social roles: traveling monks, merchants, entertainers, farmers, even samurai in some cases. This required detailed knowledge of the behaviors, speech patterns, and customs associated with different social classes. A shinobi infiltrating as a merchant would need to know about trade goods, routes, prices, and commercial practices well enough to withstand casual scrutiny. The historical emphasis on infiltration and disguise explains why the all-black costume mythology is so problematic. A shinobi dressed in black would be obviously suspicious in most contexts. The goal was to appear completely ordinary and unremarkable, blending into the social environment. This requires appropriate clothing for the role being played, not a distinctive uniform. Historical accounts of shinobi operations, when they can be verified through multiple sources, reveal the practical nature of their activities. During the siege of Hara Castle in 1638 during the Shimabara Rebellion, documented shinobi activities included scouting enemy positions, attempting to set fires within the castle, and trying to undermine morale through psychological operations. These are practical military actions, effective but not supernatural. The most famous historical ninja figure is probably Hattori Hanzo, who served Tokugawa Ieyasu. But the historical Hanzo was not primarily a stealthy assassin. He was a samurai commander who led units that included shinobi practitioners. His most famous contribution to Ieyasu's success was organizing and leading the escape through Iga province when Ieyasu was trapped in hostile territory after Oda Nobunaga's assassination in 1582. This required negotiating with local Iga families, navigating dangerous territory, and managing a desperate military movement. Primarily leadership and organizational skills, not individual ninja techniques. Another documented historical figure is Ishikawa Geemon, often portrayed in fiction as a heroic outlaw ninja. The historical Geemon was probably a bandit leader who was captured and executed in 1594, allegedly by being boiled alive along with his family. The historical records are sparse and contradictory, but Geemon appears to have been a common criminal, possibly with some training in martial arts or shinobi techniques, who was elevated to legendary status after his dramatic execution. The folklore surrounding Geemon, portraying him as a Japanese Robin Hood figure, has minimal historical support. These historical cases reveal a pattern. Real historical figures associated with shinobi practices were often quite different from their legendary versions. The legends amplify their abilities, simplify their motivations, and add dramatic elements. Over time, the legend becomes more widely known than the history, and eventually replaces it in popular consciousness. The actual techniques practiced by historical shinobi, to the extent they can be reconstructed, were practical and situational. They used grappling techniques suitable for close-quarters combat in darkness or confined spaces. They practiced techniques for moving quietly but not silently. Human movement inevitably makes sound, but trained practitioners can minimize it and time it to coincide with covering sounds. They learned to pick locks and bypass security measures of their era, which were primarily physical barriers and guard rotations. Shinobi used tools appropriate to their missions. Climbing equipment allowed access to fortifications. Ropes with grappling hooks could scale walls. Small boats could cross moats. Tools for starting fires were crucial for sabotage. Thin blade could slip through barriers. Digging tools could undermine walls or create infiltration routes. These tools were not exotic weapons, but practical implements, many of which could be improvised or obtained without arousing suspicion. The use of poisons and drugs is often mentioned in shinobi manuals. Historical shinobi had knowledge of toxic and medicinal plants, though the extent of this knowledge is debated. Some techniques involve poisoning food or water supplies, or using toxic powders as weapons. Other techniques use substances to enhance performance, maintain alertness, or manage pain. This practical pharmacology was probably one of the more valuable and guarded aspects of shinobi knowledge. One frequently misunderstood aspect of historical shinobi practice is their relationship with conventional samurai culture. Popular mythology often portrays ninja and samurai as completely distinct and often opposed groups. The reality was more complex. Many shinobi were technically lower-ranking samurai. The shinobi communities in IGA and Koga included families with samurai status. The distinction was functional rather than class-based. Shinobi performed specialized unconventional warfare roles, while conventional samurai performed standard military roles, but there was significant overlap. Some high-ranking samurai considered shinobi work dishonorable, viewing espionage and assassination as beneath warrior dignity. But practical military leaders recognized the necessity of intelligence operations and maintained shinobi in their service. The relationship between honor and pragmatism created a tension that shinobi navigated carefully. They were necessary but not entirely respectable, useful but potentially dangerous to employ. The historical shinobi's world was one of calculated risk, practical knowledge, and human limitations. They succeeded through intelligence, preparation, and exploiting enemy weaknesses, not through supernatural abilities. They died when discovered, failed when circumstances were unfavorable, and experienced normal human fear, ambition, and limitation. This historical reality is far removed from the mythology, but ultimately more compelling in its human dimension. Why has ninja mythology persisted and proliferated despite its historical inaccuracy? The answer lies in the sociological and psychological functions that the mythology serves. The ninja myth is not simply an error to be corrected, but a meaningful cultural construct that fulfills specific needs in modern society. The ninja represents a figure of empowerment through secret knowledge. In an era where information is supposedly democratized and widely available, the idea of secret techniques and hidden wisdom maintains powerful appeal. The ninja mythology suggests that extraordinary power can be accessed through finding the right teacher, learning the right techniques, and undergoing the right training. This narrative empowers individuals who feel powerless in complex modern societies. This function is particularly evident in the martial arts community. Students who undertake ninjutsu training are not simply learning self-defense techniques. They are joining a tradition that promises transformation. The narrative arc is clear. The ordinary person, through dedication to training and access to secret knowledge, becomes extraordinary. This narrative has deep appeal, particularly to young men seeking a path to masculinity, power, and respect. The ninja mythology also serves a function related to cultural otherness and exoticism. For Western audiences, the ninja represents a fascinating alternative to their own cultural traditions. The ninja is Asian, mysterious, operating according to different principles and philosophies than Western military or criminal traditions. This otherness is part of the appeal. The ninja represents a doorway to a different way of thinking and being, even if that doorway is actually constructed from Western fantasies about Asian culture. This exoticism has problematic dimensions. The Western fascination with ninja is related to broader patterns of Orientalism, the tendency to view Asian cultures as mysterious, exotic, and fundamentally different from Western cultures. The ninja mythology reduces complex Japanese history and culture to a set of exotic tropes. It often involves appreciation of superficial aesthetic elements while ignoring deeper cultural context and meaning. But the appeal is not simply about exoticism. The ninja mythology also addresses specifically modern anxieties about surveillance, privacy, and visibility. In contemporary society, individuals are constantly tracked, recorded, and observed through technology. Privacy has eroded. The ninja, who can move unseen and undetected, represents a fantasy of escaping surveillance and control. The ability to disappear, to operate outside observation, has particular appeal in an age of pervasive monitoring. This function explains the enduring popularity of stealth-based video games and narratives about infiltration and espionage. Players enjoy the fantasy of moving through environments undetected, of seeing without being seen, of having agency and power while remaining invisible to authority and control systems. The ninja serves as an archetypal figure for this fantasy. The ninja mythology also speaks to modern warfare and terrorism anxieties. The ninja is a figure who can strike from the shadows, who reject conventional rules of warfare, who is difficult to detect or prevent. In the post-9/11 era, this figure has taken on additional resonance. The ninja becomes a way to think about and represent asymmetric warfare, non-state actors, and the terrorist threat. The mythology allows processing of contemporary fears through a historical and exotic lens. Interestingly, this same association has created some negative portrayals of ninja in recent Western media. When ninja represent terrorism and asymmetric threat, they become antagonists to be defeated by heroes who represent order and legitimate authority. The ninja's moral valence is flexible within the mythology. They can be heroes or villains depending on the narrative needs of the story. The persistence of ninja mythology also reflects the commercial interests of entertainment industries. Ninja are a proven commodity. They appear in successful films, games, and merchandise. Studios, publishers, and toy companies have financial incentives to continue producing ninja content. Each new production reinforces a mythology and creates new audiences who will consume future productions. The mythology becomes self-perpetuating through market forces. Education systems also play a role in the persistence of mythology. Ninja are rarely covered in formal educational curricula. Most people's exposure comes through entertainment media rather than historical education. This means that corrections to the mythology have difficulty reaching audiences. Even when individuals encounter historical information, it competes with decades of accumulated entertainment exposure. The mythology is more culturally embedded than the historical reality ever could be. The internet has created new dynamics for ninja mythology. Online communities form around ninja interests, creating spaces where mythology is reinforced through shared belief and practice. Forums dedicated to ninjutsu training, discussion boards analyzing ninja portrayals in media, and YouTube channels demonstrating authentic techniques create an ecosystem where the mythology is constantly reiterated and elaborated. But the internet also creates opportunities for critical engagement. Historians, skeptical martial artists, and educators can share information more widely than previously possible. Detailed critiques of particular claims can reach interested audiences. Academic research can be accessed by motivated readers. The internet makes both misinformation and correction more accessible simultaneously. The sociological function of ninja mythology raises questions about the value of historical accuracy. If the mythology serves important psychological and cultural functions, providing empowerment narratives, processing cultural difference, addressing surveillance anxieties, does historical accuracy matter? Should we prioritize functional mythology over factual history? Most historians and educators would argue that accuracy still matters, even when mythology is functional. Myths that purport to be historical create misunderstanding about actual history and culture. They can reinforce stereotypes and cultural reductionism. They can create false expectations and lead people to pursue training or knowledge on false premises. The empowerment promised by ninja mythology is often illusory. Students spend years and significant money pursuing authentic ninjutsu that may be largely modern invention. Moreover, the actual history of the shinobi is rich and interesting enough to support engaging narratives without exaggeration. The historical reality of unconventional warfare in the Sengo period, the strategic calculations of shinobi operations, the social dynamics of the shinobi communities, these topics can sustain serious interest, but they require more effort to present compellingly than simply recycling familiar mythology. The challenge is creating space for both historical accuracy and cultural mythology. It should be possible to enjoy ninja fiction while understanding it is fiction. It should be possible to appreciate ninja games and films while recognizing they are creative fantasy rather than cultural documentation. But this requires media literacy and critical thinking that cannot be assumed in all audiences. Education represents the primary path toward better public understanding. Museum exhibitions that present historical evidence alongside entertainment mythology can help audiences distinguish between them. Documentary films that seriously engage with historical sources while acknowledging the appeal of the mythology can reach broader audiences than academic publications. Educational YouTube channels that combine entertainment value with factual information can compete with purely mythological content. Some Japanese cultural institutions have begun attempting this balance. The Ije-ryu Ninja Museum in Mie Prefecture presents historical information about shinobi while also offering theatrical ninja performances. Visitors can learn about documented techniques and see historical artifacts, then enjoy acrobatic demonstrations that acknowledge their performances rather than historical recreation. This approach attempts to satisfy visitor expectations while providing educational content. Similar efforts occur in academic conferences and publications. Researchers organize symposia on ninja history that bring together historians, martial artists, and cultural critics to examine ninja mythology from multiple perspectives. These events create dialogue between different communities interested in ninja topics, potentially bridging divides between entertainment consumers, serious practitioners, and academic researchers. But these efforts remain marginal compared to the massive ongoing production of ninja entertainment media. For every carefully researched book or museum exhibition, there are dozens of films, hundreds of games, and thousands of YouTube videos perpetuating mythology. The imbalance is structural, rooted in the commercial value of entertainment versus the limited market for educational content. Ultimately, ninja mythology is likely to persist indefinitely, regardless of educational efforts. The mythology serves too many functions and has too much commercial value to be displaced by historical accuracy. The realistic goal is not to eliminate mythology, but to create space where historical reality is also accessible to interested individuals, and where media consumers have tools to distinguish between entertaining fiction and cultural history. In the 21st century, ninja mythology continues to evolve, taking on new forms while maintaining core elements. Contemporary ninja culture represents a fascinating hybrid of historical fragments, accumulated fiction, martial arts practice, and participatory fandom. Understanding this contemporary culture reveals how mythology adapts to new media environments and cultural contexts. Cosplay culture has embraced ninja as a popular costume choice. At comic conventions worldwide, attendees dress in ninja costumes ranging from historical accuracy attempts to fantasy anime-inspired designs. This participatory element transforms ninja from passive entertainment into active identity play. Cosplayers research costume details, craft weapons and props, and inhabit ninja personas. This creates a deeper engagement with ninja aesthetics than merely watching a film, even if the engagement is still primarily with mythology rather than history. YouTube and social media platforms have created new spaces for ninja content. Park hour practitioners film themselves performing acrobatic movements and label them as ninja training. Martial art instructors post videos demonstrating authentic ninjutsu techniques. Amateur historians create documentary-style videos exploring ninja history. Content creators make comedy sketches, animations, and commentary videos about ninja in popular culture. The volume and variety of ninja content online is staggering. This democratization of content creation has mixed effects. On one hand, it allows diverse voices to contribute to ninja discourse, including Japanese creators who can share cultural insider perspectives, and historians who can present research findings. On the other hand, it creates a chaotic information environment where well-researched content competes with complete nonsense, and audiences may lack tools to distinguish between them. TikTok and Instagram have introduced ninja content to younger audiences through short-form video. These platforms reward spectacular, easily consumable content. Users post videos of weapon demonstrations, martial arts techniques, or comedy skits featuring ninja. The short format favors visual spectacle over explanation or nuance, potentially reinforcing the most superficial aspects of ninja mythology while making detailed historical exploration difficult. Contemporary martial arts practice continues to grapple with ninja mythology. Some instructors have abandoned the term ninjutsu entirely, recognizing that it carries too much mythological baggage. They may teach traditional Japanese martial arts without claiming ninja connections, or they may teach modern self-defense and tactical training without invoking historical lineage. This represents a turn toward pragmatism and away from myth. Other instructors embrace the mythology strategically. They teach effective martial arts and self-defense while using ninja terminology and aesthetics for marketing purposes. They may acknowledge that what they teach is modern and eclectic, but they use a ninja brand because it attracts students and communicates a certain identity and approach. This represents a knowing relationship with mythology, using it as useful fiction rather than claiming literal historical truth. A small number of practitioners and researchers attempt serious reconstruction of historical shinobi practices. This work resembles Western historical European martial arts, HEMA, efforts to reconstruct medieval and Renaissance combat systems from historical sources. Researchers study texts like the Bansen Shukai, analyze historical context, and attempt practical application of documented techniques. This work is historically valuable but reaches limited audiences. The challenge for historical reconstruction is that surviving shinobi texts primarily describe espionage and intelligence operations rather than combat systems. The physical techniques are described in limited detail, making reconstruction speculative. Unlike European fencing manuals with detailed illustrations and descriptions, shinobi texts focus more on strategy, psychology, and general principles than on specific physical techniques. This makes authentic reconstruction difficult and creates space for modern interpretation to fill gaps. Contemporary Japan has a complex relationship with ninja tourism and culture. Regions historically associated with shinobi, particularly Iga in Mie Prefecture and Koka in Shiga Prefecture, have developed ninja-themed tourism industries. These areas offer museums, theme parks, historical sites, and cultural experiences. The tourism is economically important for these regions, creating pressure to cater to tourist expectations while also attempting some historical education. IGA has been particularly active in promoting ninja heritage. The city hosts an annual ninja festival, maintains the Iga-ryu Ninja Museum, and has developed ninja-themed attractions and merchandise. Local government has supported academic research into ninja history while also promoting tourism. This dual approach attempts to balance economic development with cultural preservation and historical accuracy. The Japanese government at national level has also engaged with ninja culture. In 2017, the Japanese Ninja Council was established to coordinate research and tourism promotion across different regions. Academic programs studying ninja history have received support. These efforts represent official recognition of ninja as culturally and economically significant, even while acknowledging the complex relationship between history and mythology. Contemporary ninja culture has also been influenced by the maker movement and technology. Enthusiasts design and build ninja weapons using modern materials and manufacturing techniques. 3D printing allows creation of prop weapons and gear. DIY electronics enable creation of smoke bombs, lights, and effects. This technical engagement with ninja aesthetics creates new forms of participation beyond traditional martial arts training or entertainment consumption. The rise of obstacle course racing and programs like American Ninja Warrior represents another contemporary transformation. These athletic competitions feature courses requiring strength, agility, and acrobatic ability. While not directly claiming to represent historical ninja training, they invoke ninja imagery and identity. Participants and fans embrace ninja identity as synonymous with peak physical performance and overcoming challenges. This athletic appropriation of ninja identity further expands and transforms mythology. American Ninja Warrior and similar programs have created a new dimension of ninja culture, the ninja as athlete and competitor rather than warrior or spy. This represents significant departure from earlier ninja mythology. The competitors perform in brightly lit environments, in front of large audiences, with extensive media coverage, the opposite of the stealthy, hidden operation. But the ninja brand connotes physical capability and mastery of difficult challenges, making it suitable for this context despite the contradictions. Video games continue to evolve in their ninja representations. Modern games like Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, 2019, have created more complex and challenging ninja-adjacent experiences. Sekiro draws on historical Japanese settings and presents difficult combat requiring precision and learning enemy patterns. While still featuring supernatural elements, the game demands skillful play and conveys a sense of historical atmosphere. It represents a maturation of ninja-themed gaming toward more sophisticated experiences. Indie games have created space for experimental ninja representations. Games like Mark of a Ninja, 2012, focus on stealth mechanics and strategic gameplay, emphasizing planning and careful execution over direct combat. These games often appeal to older audiences seeking more cerebral challenges. They demonstrate that ninja themes can support diverse gameplay styles and narrative approaches beyond simple action. Contemporary anime and manga continue to produce ninja-themed content, but with increasing self-awareness and genre sophistication. Series like Golden Kamuy incorporate shinobi characters into complex historical narratives set in the Meiji period. Other works deliberately subvert ninja tropes or examine them critically. This suggests that ninja representation in Japanese media is becoming more diverse and thoughtful, moving beyond simple repetition of established formulas. Western comic books and graphic novels have created original ninja characters and mythologies. Marvel's Elektra and various ninja-themed storylines, DC's incorporation of ninja elements, and independent comics featuring original ninja characters all demonstrate ongoing Western creative engagement with ninja themes. These Western creations further transform the mythology, often combining ninja elements with other genre conventions and superhero tropes. The persistence and evolution of ninja culture in contemporary settings demonstrates the mythology's remarkable adaptability. Ninja have successfully transitioned from feudal Japanese history to 20th century action cinema to 21st century digital media, athletic competition, and participatory culture. Each transformation adds new elements while maintaining certain core associations: stealth, martial skill, exotic aesthetics, secret knowledge. The mythology proves capable of supporting diverse applications across vastly different contexts. We return now to where we began, the figure in black dropping from the ceiling. The image is false, but it is also indelible. The ninja mythology is too deeply embedded in global culture to be simply corrected away. The question is not whether we can eliminate the mythology, but how we live with it while maintaining access to historical truth. The history of ninja mythology is fundamentally a story about how cultures create meaning. Human beings transform the past through storytelling, amplifying certain elements, inventing others, and creating narratives that serve present needs. The ninja mythology emerged through a specific sequence of cultural, commercial, and historical factors, but it succeeded because it fulfilled functions that factual history could not. The historical shinobi were pragmatic operatives in a brutal period of Japanese history. They gathered intelligence, committed sabotage, performed assassinations when necessary, and used unconventional tactics in service to their employers or communities. They were skilled but human, effective but fallible, operating within the constraints of historical circumstance and human capability. This reality is interesting and worthy of study, but it cannot compete with mythology for popular attention. The mythological ninja is a figure of empowerment, mystery, and transcendence. The ninja represents mastery through secret knowledge, power through discipline, and the ability to operate outside normal constraints. The mythology offers transformation narratives, satisfies fascination with exotic otherness, addresses modern anxieties about surveillance and privacy, and provides endless material for entertainment. These functions ensure the mythology's persistence regardless of historical correction. Can these two understandings coexist? Can we enjoy ninja fiction while understanding its fiction? Can we appreciate the mythology while respecting the history? Can we engage with ninja culture while maintaining critical awareness of its construction and limitations? The answer must be yes, but it requires effort and education. Media literacy education should help audiences distinguish between historical documentation and entertainment fiction. Cultural education should provide context for understanding how and why ninja mythology developed. Critical thinking should encourage questioning of claims of authenticity and examination of commercial and ideological interest behind ninja representations. For martial art practitioners, this means honest evaluation of what they practice and why. If someone trains in a modern martial art using ninja terminology and aesthetics, that is legitimate, but it should be acknowledged as modern practice rather than claimed as ancient tradition. The techniques may be effective, the training valuable, but honesty about lineage and history builds credibility rather than undermining it. For entertainment consumers, this means enjoying ninja media while maintaining awareness that it is creative fiction rather than cultural documentation. There is nothing wrong with loving Naruto or Ninja Gaiden or ninja movies, but these should be recognized as fantasy rather than education about Japanese history or culture. The enjoyment need not be diminished by this awareness. One can appreciate creative fiction on its own terms. For educators and cultural institutions, this means finding ways to make historical reality accessible and compelling. Museums, documentary films, books, and educational content should present the fascinating complexity of historical shinobi without resorting to mythology. The actual history is rich enough to engage serious interest when presented skillfully. For researchers and historians, this means continuing careful study of available sources, publishing findings in accessible formats, and engaging with public discourse about ninja history. Academic work that remains locked in specialized journals serves limited purpose. Research that can reach broader audiences through multiple media forms can gradually improve public understanding. The future of ninja culture will likely involve continued evolution of the mythology alongside slow growth in historical understanding. New entertainment will continue to be produced, each generation creating its own ninja narratives. New technologies will enable new forms of ninja content and participation. The mythology will adapt to whatever media forms and cultural contexts emerge. But increasingly, space exists for historical accuracy alongside mythology. Audiences are becoming more sophisticated in their media consumption. Documentary forms are gaining popularity. Long-form content allows depth that short-form cannot. Educational YouTube channels can reach millions. The potential for better public historical understanding exists, even if it competes with overwhelming entertainment production. The ninja mythology also raises broader questions about cultural exchange, appropriation, and transformation. The ninja has become a transnational figure, no longer purely Japanese but not fully universal either. The mythology combined Japanese cultural elements with Western fantasy, commercial interests, and global media circulation. This creates complex dynamics of ownership, authenticity, and respect. Japanese creators and cultural institutions sometimes feel frustration with how ninja have been transformed globally. But they also participate in the mythology, producing their own ninja entertainment and capitalizing on ninja tourism. The relationship between cultural source and global appropriation is not simply exploitative, but rather complex negotiation where influence flows in multiple directions. For non-Japanese creators and consumers, this raises questions about respectful engagement. Using ninja themes in creative work is not inherently problematic, but it should involve some awareness of cultural context and historical reality. Reducing Japanese culture to exotic ninja tropes is reductive, but thoughtful engagement with ninja mythology, acknowledging its constructed nature while respecting its cultural origins, can be part of legitimate cross-cultural exchange. The real history of modern ninja myths is ultimately a story about human meaning-making. We take fragments of historical reality and transform them through layers of interpretation, fiction, and cultural adaptation until something new emerges, still connected to its origins but also independent from them. The ninja mythology is not simply error or deception, but a cultural construct that serves real functions and provides real value to those who engage with it. But this does not mean all interpretations are equally valid or that factual accuracy is irrelevant. The historical shinobi deserve to be understood on their own terms, not simply as raw material for contemporary fantasy. The actual people who lived in IGA and Koga, who developed specialized skills in unconventional warfare, who navigated the brutal politics of the Sengo period. They had their own reality that should not be completely erased by mythology. The challenge is maintaining space for both, for mythology that serves contemporary needs and for history that respects past realities. This requires nuanced thinking about the relationship between past and present, between fact and fiction, between entertainment and education. It requires institutions and individuals willing to do the difficult work of historical research and public education. It requires audiences willing to engage critically with what they consume. The ninja mythology will persist because it is useful, appealing, and commercially valuable. The historical reality will be known to fewer people because it requires effort to learn and lacks the spectacular drama of mythology. But that historical reality remains important, as a record of actual human experience, as a corrective to oversimplified mythology, and as a foundation for any serious understanding of Japanese martial culture. In the end, the story of ninja mythology is not primarily about deception or error. It is about how cultures evolve, how stories transform across time and space, and how human beings create meaningful narratives from fragments of history. The ninja mythology is false as history, but true as mythology. It reveals what people want to believe, what functions they need stories to serve, and how cultural symbols can transcend their origins to become something new. The task before us is not to destroy the mythology, but to live alongside it with awareness, to enjoy ninja fiction while understanding it as fiction, to practice ninja-inspired martial arts while being honest about their modern construction, to consume ninja entertainment while respecting the historical culture it distantly derives from, to maintain both the power of mythology and the discipline of historical truth. That balance is difficult but essential. And in that difficult balance, we honor both the historical shinobi who actually lived and the mythological ninja we continue to create.